Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. Let's talk about it. I had a playlist on YouTube that I just discovered this morning, and it was the first video on this playlist, and it was a work-related playlist, was the 48 Laws of Power explained. Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. If you're not familiar with them, they are 48 very helpful hints when you were kind of facing, it's almost like the art of war, but for business. Not that the art of war can't be for business, because obviously it can, because you're kind of applying, the same principles. Anyway, I know this is not the typical material that I cover on this channel, so stay with me because I will bring it back, I promise. The 48 Laws of Power include things such as never outshine the master. Don't trust friends, use enemies, mask your intentions, protect your reputation. Always say less than necessary. Court attention at all costs. Win through action, not argument. Let others work and take the credit. So there's a lot to unpack in all of these laws, and there are 48 of them. It is a fascinating study in psychology and business warfare, I guess. But always say less than necessary is one of those things that you can kind of take into life. And there's a lot of these rules that you can take into life. And you don't want to play games in your day-to-day life. You don't want to feel like you are at war with your partner or your parents or your siblings or your children. It's not really about that. But in life, the principle of saying less than necessary probably is a good principle for anyone like me who tends to overtalk or over-explain. And I've noticed this, there's stupid little things that you can do in life, and everybody has learned them. If you go to urgent care and you really need an antibiotic, and you know you need an antibiotic for a sinus infection, and this is usually where I'm at. Usually if I get a sinus infection and it doesn't go away in a certain amount of time, I know when I hit that antibiotic is necessary. I don't want to go on an antibiotic if I don't have to. So I know when it's necessary. So I know when I go into a clinic what they're looking for. If I tell them my sinus infection started on a Tuesday, I'm never going to get an antibiotic. I wouldn't go in there for one, but I'm just saying, how long you need to say you've had this going on. You need to know where you're feeling the pain and any other symptoms that you might be experiencing, and all of the things that you've tried leading up to it. Because they're going to recommend hot compresses, cold compresses, steam, nasal decongestants, Sudafed, nasal sprays, saline rinse, neti pots, all kinds of things, resting, fluids, whatever. So you know that if you've tried all of those things and you're like, look, I'm desperate, I'm here. So you want to say what you need to say. You don't want to over-explain. You don't want to give them too much detail. You wouldn't want to walk in there and be like, look, I've been through this a million times, and I know that I'm at the point that I need it, and they always give it to me on week 6 or, whatever. You want to go in there, and you're not tricking them, but you want to go in there and you want to give them just enough information that they need to let you know that, what do you think? You don't want to suggest antibiotic, because as soon as you say antibiotic, they're going to be like, she's just here for antibiotics. It's my job as the doctor or the healthcare provider to determine whether or not she needs antibiotics. I remember going into a emergency room situation, and I said, I have a sinus infection and a high fever, and I've been throwing up, and I've got this and I've got that. And so I went through this whole thing. The doctor immediately said to me, have you been to a doctor? And I said, no. And he said, then how do you know that you have a sinus infection? And I said, well, I'm blowing out this, stuff. It's this color. It's whatever. I've got this fever. I've got the sinus pain. And he's like, well, that could be oxidation. And, this could be that. And you don't know that you have a sinus infection. We'll take a look. We'll get to the bottom of all of this. But first of all, I want to address this and this and this and this. And he goes through this whole thing. When he comes back to give me my list of stuff, he's like, and you do have a sinus infection. But it triggered him initially when I said I've got a sinus infection, because it's his job to determine whether or not I have a sinus infection. So these roles of power, as it were, or these dynamics come into play in our everyday life. When you take your car into the mechanic, when you talk to somebody about insurance for your home, it's like there's like 3 things I learned as a homeowner. When you are talking to the town hall about your house, or city hall or whatever about your house, you don't want to make it sound like it's the most beautiful place in the world, because they're going to judge your property taxes based on what you say, and they'll do an evaluation. But if you're like, wow, my property tax evaluation came back really high, but you want to let them know everything that's wrong with your house so that they can determine that it's not worth as much as they're saying it is. When you talk to homeowners insurance, you want to let them know what you would really legitimately want replaced, because they're going to determine the value of your home and what it qualifies for insurance and what is going to be paid out. If you are selling your home, then of course you're going to make your home sound like it's the best place in the world. And you're going to be pointing out all of the really good things and downplaying anything that's bad. So depending on who you're talking to, that's how you present yourself and what your situation is. So the laws of power do play a factor in your everyday life. But I was pinning this list of things to deal with a situation that I was dealing with at work. And a couple of months into me writing down all of these laws on a legal pad and reading them every morning before I went into work, I realized that this is no longer the game that I want to play for my health, for my future, for my family, for what's best for me. And I realized that I wanted to go in a different direction. So I started pouring effort into my online business as though it were my full-time job and that I had nothing else to earn money from. This was it. And so I started, putting myself on different platforms. I started engaging in social media on things that I had never thought about before. Blue Sky, Clapper, Reddit, things I hadn't really ever used before. Getting out there, joining different platforms. There's a texting platform that I joined called Sext Panther, and then, just getting more involved with Loyal Fans, OF, just getting more involved in all of the things that I do to see where it could go. And I found that putting effort into this business was going to be well worth it without all of the emotional drama and trauma that my other job was creating in me. And I can say now I am almost exactly, it's either yesterday or today, I think it's yesterday, 7 months in. Wait, sorry. 7 months in. This is my 8th month, but I've been in this 7 full months. I can say I'm healthier. My migraines have been gone for 3 months now. I am moving more, not walking as much and not losing weight, but I'm moving more in terms of functional movement and less pain. I'm not having like all the back pain, the hip pain. I'm not having as much jaw pain, neck pain, shoulder pain that I had when I was working. So I am not walking as much, so I weigh a little bit more, but because I would walk all day long at work. You can take the schedules up to the front of the building, go check with somebody about this. You can't get a hold of somebody, and so you walk over to their department to just have this discussion with them, whatever. So I was walking all day long. I don't walk as much now that I'm home. I do sometimes. Anyway, I'm on a rabbit trail. So I feel better overall. I feel better mentally. I feel better physically. I am way more engaged with my family, with my daughters, with my sister, with my dad, extended family. I am putting more time into all of that. I'm putting more time into myself and developing the things that I'm enjoying. I'm doing more with my drawing. I'm doing more in terms of thrifting and spending time looking for things and building the home that I want, in terms of like the environment that I want to live in, creating my world. I'm learning more. I'm reading more. I am listening to more podcasts. I'm watching more things on business and health. My mind is growing and I'm feeling more relaxed and at peace. I'm spending more time in nature and I'm earning more money. So it's all a win-win-win. But when I looked back at this list this morning, the 48 Laws of Power, I realized the game that I had to play at work and what that was costing me. And I also realized that at 53, we're not guaranteed no one is guaranteed another 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. But let's max me out at 93. I've got 40 years. I've lived longer than I'm going to live. If I would have to live to be 107 to live longer than I've lived. At that linear, in a linear setting, like longer that way, I'd have to live to be like 107. So let's say I get 40 more years. Do I want to spend 10 of them dealing with a boss that I was always hitting up against, that I was having to read through these power dynamics to get through? Or do I want to spend it with whatever time my dad has left, whatever time my aunt has left, whatever time, I have left with my kids, with my sister, my partner? Like, I want to spend that time nurturing my world. And yes, there's a business. Yes, I'm not taking every day off to go sit by the water, but part of sitting by the water is coming up with things to discuss with you guys on YouTube. It's coming up with ideas to script for my OF. It's coming up with ideas that I can bring later into my work on SP. So the other day I did a call with somebody on SP and we were talking about, things that we enjoy. And I used a scenario of being, by the water. And we talked about that in our call. And it added a very real element to it that was not just physical. And it was more of a world that I was drawing them into, as opposed to just I want this, I want that, you want this, you want that. It was let's have this experience. This is what it looks like. This is what's happening. And it was very real. And so anyway, the bottom line is business. I love business. I'm fascinated by business. I'm fascinated by advertising. I'm fascinated by commercials. I own so many books on business, advertising, commercials, branding. It's fascinating to me. The influencer culture, all of it. I love it. I'm fascinated by it. I don't want it to control me. I don't want it to own my soul. It's an interest. I enjoy it and I'm having fun with it, but I need to keep me for me, and I don't want migraines, and I don't want to wake up every morning and read the 48 Laws of Power because I have to. I want to wake up and read something that I want to, that's going to benefit my life in a positive way. But I took a look at that list this morning and I realized where I'm at now and where I was at then. and I couldn't be more grateful, and I wanted to share it, and it took a really long time for me to get to that point, but I'm glad that you're still here. And if you are still here and you have not subscribed, you really need to subscribe, because if you can sit through this, you can sit through anything. I love you guys. Take care.